We begin the readout tonight with tangible evidence that when it comes to the January 6th assault on the Capitol and the attempt to subvert our very democracy, the wheels of justice are indeed actually turning. In the 2 years since the insurrection, the Department of Justice has made more than 950 arrests. Nearly 500 of those people have pleaded guilty to a variety of federal charges. At least 40 have been found guilty at contested trials. Just yesterday, 4 members of the extremist group, the Oath Keepers, were found guilty of the most serious charge launched in the attack, seditious conspiracy. This follows November's conviction of 2 other Oath Keepers, including the group's leader, Elmer Stewart Rhodes, under the same charge. And right now, 5 members of another extremist group, the Proud Boys, including its former leader, Enrique Tarrio, are facing seditious conspiracy charges in their own trial that is presently underway. Also yesterday, this man, Richard Barnett, famously seen propping his feet up on a desk in the office of then Speaker Nancy Pelosi during the insurrection, was found guilty on all 8 counts against him, including felony charges of civil disorder and obstruction of an official proceeding. He could face up to 20 years in prison. Add to that list 3 active duty Marines assigned to intelligence-related jobs who were charged last week with participating in the attack, with court records showing that one of the Marines said that he was waiting for a second civil war. All this to say, especially with the Oath Keeper convictions, that the DOJ believes that there was a conspiracy to overthrow the government, and they are winning convictions. And remember, it is not just the DOJ that is investigating the attempts to overturn the 2020 election. In Georgia, Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis has been investigating whether Donald Trump and his lackeys committed any crimes while trying to overturn his election loss in that state. And today, a Superior Court judge heard arguments over whether a grand jury's extensive report should be made public. Willis noted to the judge that decisions on whether and whom to charge in the probe are, quote, imminent. But the big question that's still left unanswered is what, if anything, will happen to the man who is at the center of this conspiracy? Let's not forget, it was Trump who told everyone to come on January 6th because it was going to be wild. It was his former advisor who said all hell will break loose that day. And we heard from Cassidy Hutchinson during the January 6th hearings about Trump's lack of concern that the people he called on to march to the Capitol were armed.
I was in the vicinity of a conversation where I overheard the president say something to the effect of, I don't effing care that they have weapons. They're not here to hurt me. Take the effing mags away. Let my people in. They can march to the Capitol from here.
Now, of course, it wouldn't be the first time that Trump would have others commit a crime and go to jail on his behalf while he walks free. Just ask his former personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, who bribed a porn star to keep quiet about an alleged affair that Cohen wasn't even a part of. Cohen spent nearly 14 months in prison, while individual 1 was in the clear on his golf course. And so now, while hundreds of these insurrectionists are seeing their lives ruined as a result of blindly following after Trump, not only is he just hanging around his various private golf clubs, but Trump is also presently a candidate for the very office he tried to steal just 2 years ago. Hashtag America. Joining me now is Jason Johnson, professor of journalism and politics at Morgan State University, MSNBC contributor, and host of the podcast A Word with Jason Johnson, and Glenn Kirshner, former federal prosecutor and MSNBC legal analyst. You're at a disadvantage, my friend Glenn, and we miss you here at the table. So I'm going to go to you first, because I think Jason and I are of the cynical, we are of the same kind of cynical mentality about Trump. And the Michael Cohen case is what kind of teaches me what to expect. Because Michael Cohen was convicted of committing a crime. He committed that crime not for himself, not because he had an affair with Stormy Daniels, but because Donald Trump did. And he paid money that he took out of his account and that Trump reimbursed him for because Trump wanted to cover that up, not him. He's the only one who paid for that crime. And so it seems to me that these, one might say, fools who threw their lives away, we're talking about a 68-year-old OBGYN from Massachusetts, 3 active duty Marines, a guy who's, had a job for 10 months and now lost all of his family. I mean, you can go through it, a real estate agent. All of these people are facing a few months to maybe years in prison. But Trump, it seems to me, has the protection of Merrick Garland, who I assume doesn't have whatever it is it takes to indict him. But what do you think?
Joy, your lead-in is so disheartening because there's so much crime and so little accountability when it comes to Donald Trump and his criminal associates because he didn't accomplish January 6th by himself. And thus far, only the boots of the insurrection, only his foot soldiers who he ordered to attack the Capitol and stop the steal are being held accountable. None of the suits of the insurrection, the hierarchy of the insurrection, the people of privilege and influence, none of them have been held accountable. But Joy, a little bit of a silver lining today.
Okay.
Enter District Attorney Fani Willis, okay? We can move away from Merrick Garland for the moment because I'll tell you, what I heard her say today, and she is a very sober, measured, determined prosecutor. And I heard her use two words that frankly got my justice juices flowing. And I want to quote her precisely because here's what she said. She said, "We think for future defendants, plural, to be treated fairly, it's not appropriate at this time to have the grand jury report released." And then she said my second favorite word, that charging decisions are imminent. And God bless Fani Willis, because we all know she has been thoroughly, aggressively, quietly sawing the justice wood in front of her. We learned today that she put 75 witnesses before the special grand jury, including, people who desperately did not want to testify about Donald Trump's crimes. People like Rudy Giuliani and Mike Flynn, Lindsey Graham, they all ran to court. Please don't make me testify. And Fani Willis beat everyone and put them in the grand jury and forced them to testify. And today she said, we don't want the grand jury report released because that would impact defendants, plural, right to a fair trial. She didn't use that word recklessly or cavalierly. She's contemplating, based on what we learned today, returning indictments against whoever it is the special grand jury recommended to be indicted. And she said, we're going to do it imminently. Defendants and imminently are two words that I think we can hold fast to right now.
And that's, I think, a lot, listen, Glenn Kirshner's always wanted to talk me down and make me feel better about life. But I mean, so it is sort of ironic that it may come down to the black prosecutor in Georgia.
Isn't it always? Doesn't it always end up falling on the shoulders?
A black woman's work is never done.
Exactly.
Jason.
It's never done. It's never done.
I mean, but the thing is, because she also does have a very clean case. I mean, Donald Trump is the one who said, listen, I'm going to need 11,786 votes. I'm going to need it. He was on the phone. He said it on the phone.
Yes.
And so it seems very straightforward, right? So talk about Fani Willis a little bit and what might be the impediments to her doing what it seems Merrick Garland might be afraid of.
Well, here's the thing. First off, she's got to still make the case, right? She can talk about imminent trials, whatever it is. You'd still have to win, right? And then what are the consequences going to be? Right, because there are variations to how you can be held accountable for attempting to tamper with an election. You could get fined. You could have short jail time. You could be suspended from running from office again. I don't care about small things. I want to see people go to jail. I am tired of corner boys being arrested while Stringer and Avon are still hanging out, because that's essentially what's going on right now. Whether or not it's Donald Trump or Marjorie Taylor Greene or Jim Jordan, there are members of Congress who are part of this as well who haven't been held accountable. Yeah. So I believe in Fani. I believe in what she's doing. But until I see, Orange is the new Trump, until I see somebody in a jumpsuit, I am not convinced that any of this is accomplishing anything. And I'm sorry, but this is more than justice delayed. It was bad enough that Merrick Garland dragged all this time out until the Republicans basically took Congress. Now we're in a situation where we're depending on local state prosecutors to take down a former president? Yeah. It's never going to happen.
And the thing about it is, Glenn, is I am not saying that Merrick Garland isn't thinking it through or that Fani Willis hasn't thought through. I think they are. And here's the challenge. It's obvious that Donald Trump is the sole beneficiary of the attempted insurrection. I don't think anybody argues with that. But they also, everyone acting here knows that he still commands what amounts to militias, armed militias, who are very clear about the fact that they are willing to be incredibly violent to protect him and that they'll protect him at all costs, including going to prison for him. So I think, do you think that the Justice Department or that Fani Willis has to look at it in that lens? We're not just facing a politician. You're facing really an insurrection movement that, to Jason's point, is now in charge of the House of Representatives?
I don't think any prosecutor worth his or her salt looks at the collateral consequences of bringing a righteous prosecution and makes their prosecutorial decision based on those extraneous factors, based on how others might react if you bring a case that is supported by the evidence. And, what I have such a huge concern about right now, even if Donald Trump does end up being indicted for the insurrection, and I still believe he will, and I still believe he must, if we are to save our democracy. We've all heard the phrase justice delayed is justice denied. Justice has been delayed. I hope it's not entirely denied. But during the 2-year period, Joy, what message has the Department of Justice sent to the next wannabe dictator who might try to overthrow our government? You know what? When you do it, we're going to give you a full 2 years to figure out what your next move is. Boy, that is the opposite of promptly deterring criminal conduct.